I had a couple of conversations this week that lead me to believe, Raheem, that the Clippers would indeed be willing to trade Kawhi Leonard and James Harden in order to fill the gaps in their missing years without draft picks.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts on hearing this? Like, if the Clippers were indeed willing to just essentially blow it up despite not having their own pick this year.
So I've said this weeks ago. This is what they should be doing. You don't own your own draft picks. At this point, you're just making Oklahoma City Thunder better. You need to get something for those guys because you're not competing for a championship. At this point, you're not even competing for the playoffs. And it's unfortunate because obviously you sunk so much into this team. You trade for Bradley Beal. And it's pretty clear that, without Bradley Beal, you don't have enough there. And you're missing Norman Powell. Norman Powell was a tremendous piece for that roster last year. And now you're just dependent on James Harden, who I think is a guy who still has tremendous value in this league. He's one of the best floor raisers in this league. You put him with 4 other shooters and you're competitive. So I think there's a team who would want him. And then for Kawhi Leonard, maybe he's a little bit harder to trade. But as we saw from the Anthony Davis-Luka Doncic trade, there's always a GM dumb enough to make a move. Like, there's always somebody. And I think Kawhi Leonard is one of those guys who, if you put him on the right team, he could push you over the hump.
What's the right team for Kawhi Leonard? Who's dumb enough?
I don't know who's dumb enough, but let's say if, Detroit or Orlando said, you know what, the East is weak.
And that's not dumb for those teams. That's like, hey, why not? Let's just roll the dice.
Literally, you could go for it in the East and have a legitimate chance of getting to the championship. And you could say, oh, nobody's competing with Oklahoma City. Nobody's competing with Denver. Nobody's competing with Houston. We just don't know. Every single year, if you look at the last 4 or 5, we had 7 different champions in a row. And there's always an injury that kind of decides things.
Everybody thought OKC was going to win the cup.
Yeah.
Granted, it's just a single game elimination. A 7-game series will be different. But everybody assumed it was going to be OKC versus the Knicks, and OKC was going to win the cup, and they're going to win 78 games, and then they're going to win the finals. Well,
you're a Boston, you're a Celtics fan. Last year, the Celtics were a shoo-in.
Of course, everybody said Boston was going to repeat.
The year before that, the Nuggets. So it's always somebody. So it's like, why not take a chance?
You have to position yourself for an opportunity to win. So to your point with the Pistons, for example, I've long said that I think they should go for AD. Yeah. I similarly think if they could flip Tobias Harris and a couple pieces to go get Kawhi Leonard, why the hell not? Why not? If Kawhi is, your second guy next to Cade Cunningham, why not add him? I think that would make some sense there. I've been thinking also about Houston. Yeah. I thought about Houston with Kawhi Leonard, but it's really, really hard for them to get to the money. Yeah. It's Fred VanVleet's $25 million expiring. I just wonder if they'll do something with that in order to upgrade. I know a lot of people say they should go for a point guard. I'm sure some people would say, well, no, Houston should go after Harden. I don't think Harden makes sense.
They're already first in offensive rating.
Yes, and he changes what they are. Too much. To me, I think there's other teams that would make a lot more sense for Harden, and the team that I've heard would make a lot of sense for him, and that could be connected to James Harden is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah. That to me makes sense.
Oh, without a doubt.
For both sides. For Harden to play next to Anthony Edwards, and then for the Wolves, he makes more sense than Ja Morant, in my opinion. He makes more sense next to Anthony Edwards. The balance between those two. I think that could be potentially a dream fit.
I love that. I love that fit. And I honestly think I don't even think Houston needs to make a move.
I think I'd keep it as is.
And that's where I am.
Unless it's VanVleet, $25 million, and maybe Dorian Finney-Smith, who we still haven't seen. Yeah. You get the $37-38 million in a trade to put together. Unless it's those guys, I wouldn't do anything massive.
I wouldn't do it. Other than maybe a backup point guard or something.
But Minnesota's been to 2 straight Western Conference Finals, and they have to take another step here. Yeah. And Naz Reid has just been okay for them. I think there's some type of deal you could put together with a Naz Reid, Mike Conley's salary, and get to some amount of money for James Harden at $39 million this year, and I think that makes a lot of sense. For them.
And they need the playmaking. They need the playmaking and another creator, because I think that's the one thing that they lack.
Yes, and for what it's worth, I know a lot of people say, well, if we're trading this guy to the Wolves, we want Jaden McDaniels. I don't think the Wolves are going to trade Jaden McDaniels. That's my impression. The Wolves are not going to trade him.